Hi, my name's AnnMarie Pryke, and I am your host for today's Second Act Mamas podcast, a place where women in the second act of their life can come together and talk, admonish, support, laugh about anything this stage of life has to throw at you. So help me welcome today's guest, Kristi Vega. It's Vega, right? Not
Yes.
Vega. Yeah, okay. She is a mother of four, a wife of 26 years.
Going on 27? Yeah, 26 years.
When's your anniversary?
May.
May. Oh, that's fun.
May 20, next month.
That's
yeah.
awesome. To our high school sweetheart,
Yep.
which I love so much, a retired naval officer.
Yes.
Yeah. So you moved from San Diego. That was his last tour?
Yeah, he retired and we packed up. Well, I packed up the house and away we came.
That's awesome. So she also has a master's in psychology, a marriage and family therapist.
Yeah.
For 6 years? You've been doing that for 6 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I finished my grad program right around the time he retired. So it was like 1 year of everything changing.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And you work at Psych Ed Connections in Nocatee, right?
Yes.
Right here in Nocatee?
Yes.
So what do you specialize in?
I see mostly teens and families, parents, of course. Anybody I see is going to include your family because I'm a family therapist.
Sure.
But yeah, probably mostly teens. But I also love working with moms.
Yeah.
I'm a mom. And so I have some moms who just come for them to have a sounding board and someone to talk to about managing their life. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
We all need that.
Yeah.
We all need someone to help us manage our life. Okay. So we always start with rapid fire questions. And like I said before, so the rapid fire questions haven't really turned into rapid fire, but I kind of like it better. It's more conversational. Anyway. Okay. So when going on a date with your husband, do you choose a romantic candlelit dinner or Netflix and pizza?
You know, we really try to do both.
Yeah.
Frequently. And fortunately, we're at a stage of life where we have more freedom from our kids to be able to do both. But I probably prefer the Netflix. We just started that Ben Franklin series last night.
Oh, I don't know that one.
So we like to find shows to watch together or movies to watch together. That's probably our most common. Unless it's our anniversary, or Valentine's.
Sure. Do you have a favorite restaurant to go to?
Not really. We really like to try new restaurants together.
We do too. Honestly, our favorite place to go for date night is downtown St. Augustine because there's so much to choose from and you can just walk around. And
yes, I agree. We usually start there, try to find some place we haven't been yet.
Yeah.
Or we find a place that has oysters because we're always looking for.
You like oysters?
Yeah. He does especially, but we both do.
I'll eat them fried, but raw, I just can't do it.
Oh, we like a raw oyster.
Yeah, I just can't do it. When going on a trip, do you pack your whole closet or do you travel light?
I am a terrible packer. I underpack. I get stressed by too much stuff.
Okay.
And then our last trip at spring break, I had to go down to the gift shop and buy clothes. I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, how did I only bring 2 shirts and 1 dress for a week and a half? I don't know.
That's funny.
I'm terrible at packing myself.
That's funny. Yeah. So I am a notorious overpacker because I just never know what I'm going to wear. Or I just, I feel like it depends on how I feel that day and what I feel like wearing. But my husband is a notorious wait till the last minute kind of packer, and that actually kind of stresses me out sometimes, but I've had to let that go. Anyway, but we're going on a big trip in May and I've already started thinking about what I'm packing. So it's like that. It's kind of.
Yeah. Well, my husband packs because he's a pilot and he leaves every week. He has a routine down. He always has everything he needs. He has exactly what he needs. He has it all packed very efficiently.
Yeah.
And I'm on my own. I don't know. I just can't get my act together.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is one aspect of motherhood you find the most joy in?
I enjoy my kids. I enjoy their sense of humor. I enjoy spending time with them, each stage of the way. And now that they're older and we watch shows together and we go to movies together and getting their perspective on it. And it keeps, my mother-in-law says all the time, it keeps me young. I know stuff that I only know because I learned from them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like the silly part of it is like their slang now too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they find it hilarious when it's just part of like conversation. And she's like, especially Savannah, she's like, what did you just say? I'm like, it works. The word works.
We were at church yesterday, and we're passing a basket that had seen better days. And my 16-year-old takes it. She goes, that basket's been through it, and keeps it going. And I just find it amusing, you know.
It's funny.
Yeah.
So what is one new skill or hobby you have always wanted to learn?
Playing an instrument.
Oh, cool.
Always wished I learned. Both my sisters were in band, and my older sister's a music therapist.
Oh, wow.
And I always wish I like played piano, played guitar.
Sure.
I'll pick out some songs on this keyboard we have and start to think, oh, I'm gonna do a self-study course and learn. And I was at Roscaloosa Saturday.
Oh, that's fun.
Was like, look at all these guitars. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to play guitar. Look at all these guitar players up there. And so maybe someday.
So that would be your instrument, the guitar?
Yeah. It's portable, you know.
Oh, that's a good point.
We're probably more likely to, we have a guitar. My son took guitar lessons, so we already have it. So
yeah. Our son took piano from first grade through, I guess he stopped taking lessons his junior year in high school. Yeah, and I kind of pushed it because I always wanted to learn how to play the piano.
Right.
And I just feel like it's I don't know, more well-rounding to like know how to read music or I don't know.
I tried. I even got one kid to like 2 lessons, and I couldn't even get them back in the car. They all said no.
Yeah.
It was my dream.
Yeah,
maybe I'll do it one day.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so when launching your kids, is it freedom at last or is it sob fest?
A mix of both, maybe. I don't know. I mean, only one has gone, and I didn't cry as much as I thought leaving her at college.
Sure.
So, I don't know. A mix of both.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, I still have 3 at home full time. Yeah. So, I'm not quite empty yet. Yeah. I'm sure there will be a sob fest. There's an occasional Friday night where almost every Friday night, what am I talking about occasional? Almost every Friday night, they're all off doing stuff and mom is home alone. My husband's off on a trip. I'm like, it's so strange. I spent so many years where I would have longed for this freedom. Yeah. Right? Exactly that. Like, I'm covered in babies. I don't get to go anywhere on the weekends, but just, put kids to bed and make dinner and do dishes. And now it's interesting. Friday nights, almost every Friday night, I'm like on my own until they start needing a pickup, a ride home.
The chauffeur. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if this applies to you, so if it doesn't, you don't have to answer. But so what is one symptom of perimenopause, menopause that you weren't prepared for?
Not sleeping through the night.
Oh, yeah.
That started maybe a year ago. I always slept well. I mean, from when kids were little, I would say, once they stopped waking me up in the middle of the night, my head would hit that pillow and I would be out. And I used to say I could drink coffee up until half an hour before bedtime and I would have still been out. And about a year ago, I started to, I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and just, I couldn't go back to sleep.
So is it, okay, so my question is when you wake up, so it's 3, right? For me, it's between, so for me, it's between 2 and 4. So yeah. It's a 50-50 chance whether I fall back to sleep. So, but it's usually like once my mind starts to race, and that's always what happens. My mind starts to race and then forget it. I'm done. Yeah.
And then I'm like looking at the time, like, I only have 2 hours left. Oh, an hour and a half left.
Right.
Like, is any point at even trying at this
point?
point?
Should I just get up? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's hard.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, I had my hormones tested and my progesterone was so low that had a lot to do with the sleep disturbances. Oh. So I'm actually on progesterone and my sleeping is a gazillion% better.
Oh, that is great to know.
Yeah. Just a little tidbit. Not necessarily that's what it is.
Right.
But for me, it helped a lot.
I feel like working out has helped. I've started doing more of that
for
since the holidays. And then my schedule, I kind of can arrange my schedule. I see teenagers in the late afternoon, early evening.
Yeah.
So sometimes once, my teenagers are out the door, I will take a nap if I haven't been able to sleep.
Sure.
So
yeah.
That's nice.
It's not. How often do you work? How many days a week?
3 days a week.
3 days. That's nice.
It is.
Not too much, not too
It's
little.
the
It
sweet
keeps,
spot.
yeah. I would think for sure.
If you can manage it, I highly recommend a part-time. Not everybody can do that.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
it
the
is,
3 days a week. Is it full days?
no.
Yeah.
No, I see afternoons and like I said, into the evening because
That's when they're available.
that's when kids get out of school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. Okay. So when we were chatting in the pre-interview, I feel like we could have touched on a lot of different things having to deal with like women in the second act of their life. We did talk about a lot of things. You are someone who is very knowledgeable about a lot of different things just because of the stages of life you've been through and things like that. But a couple of the things that we were talking about that I thought would be really, really helpful is parenting in midlife and what all that looks like. So do you think parenting has changed as you've gotten older? Like, do you think you're a different parent now as you were when you were 20?
Oh, well, yeah, it demands a lot more letting go now than it did.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I spent a lot of time on my own parenting 2 kids, then 3 kids, then 4 kids when my husband would be deployed. And so I had to have some limits.
Yeah.
Occasionally a family video will surface and I'll hear me talking to my kids in this like director tone, telling, commanding them to, and I'm like, wow, I really sounded, because I don't talk to my, 18-year-old or my 21-year-old like that now. And probably not even my 16-year-old or my 13-year-old. I don't know, maybe they would tell you different. Maybe it comes out at different times, but yeah, letting go and giving them choices and getting used to the idea that, I can't control what they do, so I have to pick my battles.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to decide, and also to negotiate with my husband, what battles are we going to pick?
Yeah. That's always a hard conversation sometimes.
Yeah, I'll tell you one battle I decided to not pick that before I had kids, I thought, I will always make sure that my kids, cut their hair and keep their hair out of their, and we let hair go. I started to stress about it, and then I looked around and I realized there's going to be more important things in life. Yeah. I completely let the hair battle go. So that's one.
And I mean, from a military family, I would think like the hair thing is kind of like forefront. Like you have to.
Yeah. It'll
high and tight, right?
Irk my husband more than me.
Sure.
I just am, I don't know. I like certain hairstyles. I like my girls to have long, beautiful locks. Yeah. It's, when they want to cut it short, or long hair on boys is a thing. It came back, it's always cyclical. Thing. And, I bite my tongue and let them do what they want. Yeah. There's more important things in life.
Yeah. So so you've had different stages of life of like almost single parenting sometimes, and then having your husband retire. So now he's home all the time, home more.
More.
Yeah. So what do you think is important, like thing to remember when parenting with your spouse? Like, what do you think?
I use the phrase, and when we talked before, I used the phrase same page parenting a lot, like getting on the same page about some things. That is important to do, but it's just going to be a fact. We're going to disagree about some things as well. Yeah. So how much is okay that I let him take the lead? He wants it this way, or he lets me take the lead because I want it this way. Not undermining each other. That's also part of the same page. You don't have to agree on everything. But if, you let one parent be the one who sets the limit, then you got to respect that or renegotiate it respectfally. Yeah,
we've had to learn. Was that a hard transition, going from being by yourself a lot and then not being, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was that hard for you?
Well, among Navy spouses, there would always be a joke of when they come back from a long deployment. Yeah. There's a window of you're in each other's way, and you've been running your house. Yeah. And you're parenting a certain way. Yeah. And you're like, we do it this way for a reason. And now you do have to make some room and some adjustments, but you want to say things like, don't you have a boat to go to? Like, I am trying to get this done. This is not how we do things, It is always an adjustment period. And I think that when he retired, even though immediately he was really gone for airline training for a while. But once he got in a regular routine, he is home more. So I do have to I think that, yeah, it adjusted so that he took over some things. There was conflict about cooking. He loves to cook. So now he's cooking more. And there are times that we're like arm wrestling for like, I want to cook that. No, I want to cook that. I want to do it my way. I want to do it my way.
That's funny.
We fight over that sometimes. And then, I mean, COVID was, shook everything up for everybody. I feel like being together all the time and deciding how are we going to do this schooling with the kids and where do we set the bar and where do we set boundaries. Yeah. We did not agree on things at times for that either.
I don't think anyone did. I mean, I don't think anyone did.
Yeah, that was rough on most every family with kids.
I don't know how it could not have been. Yeah. I don't know how it could. If you were at all paying attention, like at all engaged in life, it was challenging.
Like the idea of pick your battles was just like to the 100th degree at that point in time. Yeah. Like I'm big on looking at everything through the lens of prioritizing. You got to order it. And that was a time for triage. Like we're going to have to rip off a lot of these priorities we just are not going to get to. So yeah, there's a lot of disagreement about what priorities are we ripping off there.
What's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to reevaluate that. I feel like, apart from a pandemic, I feel like you have to reevaluate that every once in a while in your family. Like, okay, what's really important? What was important to me when I was a first-time mom at 27, and what's important to me now as a launching mom, almost empty nester mom at 48, right? Like I'm a very different person than I was, and that reflects in my parenting for sure. I don't know if my kids would say this. I think I am a much chiller mom.
Yeah.
Now than I was before. I very no, this is the way it's supposed to be. I deal with a lot of control issues just naturally in my life. So that filters into motherhood, things like that. So, but I think I'm a much chiller mom.
Yeah. I feel like before the pandemic, there was kind of a rock bottom where I realized I got to let some stuff go. Yeah. When my third baby was born, we were PCSing cross country from Virginia back to San Diego with a 6-month-old. And as soon as we got there, my husband was going to deploy. Oh, wow. And I had started a home business online selling cloth diapers.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did that for a few years. And it was like finally really starting to get profitable, which was harder for a one-woman show.
Yeah.
My husband was helping with that, but then, he was about to leave for 6 months, 7, I don't even remember. So we got to San Diego and he left, and immediately I started to get sick all the time. Oh, I was also doing editing projects for part-time for educational publishing. I would do that from time to time. So within a few months of that deployment, I got really, really sick. And I remember, I had a couple of Navy spouse friends who were, that's the only way that I could do it when people ask, how did you do it when your husband deployed and you have no family around? Yeah. It was my mom friends, my Navy mom friends. I was really sick, couldn't sleep. I was up, coughing all night long. And I had an infant and a toddler and a preschooler. And one morning when I was starting to really get scared because I was like, what if I stop breathing at night and there's nobody even here?
Oh, wow.
My friend Jill pulled up in the driveway that day and said, I'm here to watch your kids so you can go to the ER, and you have to go today because I have to work tomorrow. Today's my only day to watch your kids. And I was like, yes, ma'am, because last night I was afraid I couldn't breathe. So I took myself to the ER, and they were like, it was the Navy hospital. So they said, is your husband home or deployed? And I said, deployed. And they said, okay, well, we would admit you if he was home, but since he's not home, we're sending you home with all these drugs. I had
was it like pneumonia or okay,
and bronchitis, and it was bad. So they were like, you're not really breathing very well. So my mom actually flew in from Georgia. I quit the editing job. I told my editor, please don't send me any more projects because I can't say no. So just don't offer them. And then I closed down the diaper thing business. And so I was just momming. And I had to take a look at what can I cut from my life And that was the first time that I really started, I got to triage. I got to look at my life and priorities. And yeah, there are some important things, but there are more important things.
Yeah.
So I have to let those go.
Yeah.
Even though I will, and here's the big part, feel judged.
Yeah.
Not just judging myself. And so that was what the first things to go were the things that I do solely because I'm afraid other people will judge me for it.
Why do moms do? I mean, I don't know if it's just a mom thing, but I feel like it's a prevalent mom thing.
So one of the things was every day in my house became crazy sock day. Because I started every day having almost a panic attack over trying to find match socks for all 3 kids to get out the door. And one morning I was like, why am I starting my day like this every day? I mean, obviously, I would then say, well, if I could just get all this laundry put away and then I could find the match socks in it. But then I was like, no, this is not important.
Yeah.
Every day is going to be crazy sock day, at least until Dad gets home.
Right.
So it did. And then some days were also kind of crazy hair day, you know, or stained t-shirt day. And I'm just like going to let that go because these are the things that I only care about because of, you know, other people's judgment.
Yeah.
So those were the things that, you know, got me to figure out prioritizing and letting go of other people's priorities being different than mine.
Yeah. That's such a good point. Just apart from parenting or whatever, but broad, how many things do we drive ourselves crazy over solely because of how we are perceived, how we feel that we're perceived by other women. I think especially other women. It's interesting to like really step back and think about that. Like, do I really like doing that? Or do I do it because X, Y, and Z, or because it's an expectation, or because I feel like it's an expectation?
Right.
Like, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Especially the older that I know for sure, for me, the older I have gotten, the more I am feeling very comfortable with like saying no.
Yes.
I couldn't say no for so many reasons. And part of it was I found my identity in performance. So like, I can say that out loud. I couldn't say that out loud 15 years ago, but I mean, 100%. I wanted people to think I was awesome. I mean, like, you know, like as arrogant and like ego driven as it is, it was, and it wasn't necessarily like, I don't know.
And it's not necessarily all ego. Some of that can, you know, be how we grew up in. You feel secure when you get that approval from other people.
Well, and I mean,
if you were good at it in school, if you excelled at it, then you go all in on it. Yeah. And you're like, I get gold stars. Yeah. I get A's. Yeah. I'm that girl, you know?
Oh, I am that girl.
Yeah.
I am that girl who does well in school, who doesn't get into trouble, who doesn't, you know, like doesn't drink or whatever. But part of that was, and this is a rabbit hole, but like, you know, through therapy, I'm a big proponent for therapy, but through therapy, it was like, no, so many of those performance behaviors was because I felt invisible growing up. So it was the only way I felt seen was to be the good girl. Like, and it actually growing up, it was almost like it shot me in the foot because there was 7 of us. So because I was the good kid, I got paid attention to less.
Yeah.
Because they were like, AnnMarie's fine. AnnMarie's fine. We don't have to worry about AnnMarie. Like, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that for me, and that filtered into mothering, that filtered into being a wife. Yeah. I was an occupational therapist for 20 years. That filtered into being a therapist, you know. So yeah. How many things do we do in our life that we do because of we feel that we have to, or that other people expect us to?
Yeah. One I came to realize about myself was this need to be beyond reproach. That's the words that, like, for me, remind me, oh, this is my problem. I got to get it. It's that thing that I do, or this has to be perfect. Whether it's an essay I was writing for school, or, you know, this is the most food that I'm making for somebody in the neighborhood who, you know, you're making a meal for. Like, I need it to be perfect. If I'm answering a question at work or an email at work, I'll put the email off because I want to make sure that I have time to thoroughly think about it, cover every possible issue so that there will be no critical feedback. No, well, you didn't answer this, or I don't know, you know, pointing out flaws. And I don't know why I feel like that's so bad a thing, because critical feedback is actually a great thing. And
it's super helpful.
Yes.
That's how we grow. That's how we
Exactly,
mature.
100%.
But like if you find your identity in your performance,
then it's paralyzing.
And it's not like they're not criticizing like one aspect of a job or whatever. For me, it was like they were criticizing me as a person.
Yes.
Like
you know that hot feeling when you're like on the judgment seat or you're being called out for something. You know, that hot feeling of shame is how I think of it. That just comes over you. And then I become speechless. Like if you've ever been called on the carpet for something, I mean, I only have experiences of minor things. It's not like I'm a rebel. But like not turning in an assignment on time. If you ever had a teacher say, everybody else turned this in, why didn't you turn it in? Which sometimes teachers snap. There's a couple instances where people snapped at me like that. And it's just that hot shame.
I never want to feel this way again.
Yeah. So for a lot of people, that makes them not even try, not put themselves out there. You know, that's something that I definitely have let go of in most instances. But there, like I said, there's times that I'm like, oh, that's my need to never be reproached. But I need to remember this is not an important thing. So what if I make a mistake? So what? Who cares?
Yeah.
That's the phase of life.
But I feel like I have to say to myself out loud, like, I know it to be true, but in my heart, it doesn't feel true. Like in my brain, I know that's fact, but it doesn't.
Right.
It's a chasm between your heart and your brain, right? So it's functionally playing out. Yes, of course, I don't find my identity in my performance, but that's not how it necessarily functionally plays out if you're not paying attention, right?
Yeah.
And I see it in my kids. Like it plays out differently. Savannah's 100% like me, where I think Luke is more like, he goes to the not try. He would rather not try than fail, or right. So it's like as you're paying,
paralyzing.
It's paralyzing 100%. So like having to parent through my own like experiences for Savannah, because I know exactly how she ticks, right? And then having to figure out how to parent differently with Luke of like, tell me why you do that. You know, like, 'cause I don't get that.
Yeah.
That's not how I operate. But
going back to work helped a lot, kind of change me and kick that habit somewhat, because, you know, I picked a career where I meet with someone and they're bringing the content really.
Yeah, sure.
So I just have to have the, you know, the training, the education, the experience, the skills, you know, and there's some talent, you got to be a talented listener. That's one thing that I feel like is inborn in me that I really can't take. I am a listener. So I just walk into that space, or they invite, you know, clients into that space, and I have to wing it. And that was really scary when I started doing it, because I want to study. I want a flow chart of every possible, if we talk about this is what I have prepared. I want preparation.
Yeah.
And I do work with a lot of teenagers who are great students, who that's their paralyzing thing, is they cope with everything by over preparing. And so I picked a job where you can only prepare so much, and you got to walk in and wing it. And that has really helped me in this stage of my life, of applying that now to other situations, like even just a phone call. I've always hated phone calls.
You have?
Hate phone calls because you're on the spot.
Yeah, sure.
You know, how can I be beyond reproach if I don't even know what this person's going to be asking me on the phone? So now I'm just like, I'm just going to wing it. I have what it takes to wing it. I have to remind myself of that sometimes.
I found, this is kind of off topic, but I saw a reel yesterday on Instagram, and he was like, you know, it's the most hard part of being an introvert or being an overthinker is, you know, when I play out every single scenario, how this conversation is going to go with my friend or the person. And then when I get to that person, they go off script. They don't talk about anything that I prepared for. Like it was like a silly, you know, tongue in cheek, but I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah. So,
which parenting is in a nutshell, you know, as much as you prepare for, this is how I'm going to do dinners, and this is how I'm going to do sleep training or whatever. And then your kid comes and you're like, this is not how they're supposed to be.
Nope.
So same thing for this stage of life in parenting too.
100%. I mean, yeah, like when my son was born, it was nothing like did not play out the way that I thought it was going to play out. Right. None of it did. So that was like, it kind of threw me for a loop. And for this stage of parenting too, I think parenting teenagers and above has been much harder than toddler years and even baby years. I just feel like it requires so much more from you mentally, relationally, psychologically. I feel like it requires so much more brain space, which I think is a little bit harder than just changing a diaper in my
right.
family.
It's physically demanding when they're babies and exhausting. It's physically exhausting when they're babies. And now it's more like cognitively demanding.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
At a time when it's harder to get outside input because your teens and young adults deserve privacy. You can't be discussing their business with everyone.
Yeah. And it's so, and that's where it's hard, I feel like, because this is where you probably need the most help. Like, and I think maybe we talked about this, you know, you see 5 different friends who have teenagers on social media or whatever, and they were like, oh, well, that's not my story. So like, what about X, Y, and Z, right? Like, but because they're older and they have, and not they didn't have a say when you're younger, but they have more of a say in like how much you reveal and talk about and things like that. But then it makes it harder as a mom because I'm like, no, I really need help. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I don't know what the best is to do.
Right. Is this normal?
Is this normal? I don't know how many times I've asked that.
What are the pros and cons? How did you do that? You want to see other examples of how people handled it?
Yeah. Good and challenging.
Right.
I mean, yeah. Parenting teenagers is no joke. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's true. One thing that has helped me in the college years is, discovering the Facebook parent page for your kids' college or your kids.
Do they all
like
have
for senior year? Oh yeah, they all do now. Like it's just part of life now. So the kids go to school and there's automatically like an Instagram page, Snapchat probably, for their like class of 2027, class of 2028. Next is the one upcoming.
Yeah.
So they'll have their own like student page. My daughter lost her phone, so she posted that on her, FSU class or whatever. Lost my phone at such and such party if anyone sees it. But there's a parent page for it too. And so that helps when I have found out stuff about, where to park at Parents' Day weekend, or like, it's like, do I really need to buy this ticket or should I buy that one? Or what if my daughter hasn't registered yet? Do I need to freak out about that?
Sure.
Or others kids, have late dates too. It really helps on those parent pages to just normalize and also sometimes get some tips and tricks.
But that's super helpful. That's super helpful for people watching this.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have pros and cons about Facebook, but for our age group, that's where the helpful mom groups are, the helpful parent groups.
Yeah, for sure. So you absolutely model a very healthy marriage, normal, healthy marriage. It's nice to see. It's refreshing to see because I feel like maybe in this stage of life, you have friendships that are struggling in their marriage, divorce, whatever. Anyway, I don't know what it is about this stage of life, but it seems like that's kind of where it's starting.
Yeah.
So what do you think maybe some mistakes that can be made that lead to problems in midlife marriage?
Well, there's probably a whole lot that we could talk about. One dynamic that every marriage goes through is you grow. You're growing as an individual over time. Your spouse is growing as an individual over time. Your interests change. I have prioritized and cut some things off of it. Well, he might have some of those that he's like, wait a minute, this is a huge priority for me. I have seen marriages struggle because people are not prioritizing the same things and they haven't found a way to overcome it.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to prioritize your marriage while you're figuring all the rest out.
Yeah.
It helps to have good chemistry, to really enjoy each other.
Yeah.
We enjoy each other's sense of humor. We've been together since we were 16 for a reason.
I love that so much.
We're very, very different people. In fact, when we went for our pre-marriage counseling with, we got married at the Naval Academy. So it was the Catholic chaplain at the Naval Academy who did counseling. They gave us like the big Myers-Briggs personality typing
Oh, okay.
exam, and then they had the results, and then we met individually with the priest, and we were in the exact opposite corners. Like every letter, we were the opposite. He's very extroverted and very directive, and I am very introverted, and I'm very intuitive, you know.
Do you have more of a compliant personality?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Sure. And you know, there are some things that I've learned from his personality. Like when I'm trying to not care what people think, I think of him. He can so easily be like, "Not my problem. That's not a problem he has
and
ever
truly
had
shut
in
it
life."
off.
And shut it, yeah. And he can shut it off. He's really good at compartmentalizing, which Navy pilots should be. You know, that's a good thing for a pilot to be. I am terrible at compartmentalizing, but I've gotten better about it when necessary, kind of from watching him. So I've learned from him. But you have to grow, and you have to let each other grow, but you have to negotiate the important things so you stay the same on what's important. Time for each other and to care about each other always has to be prior. You can't be like, oh, we're at a time in life where we just don't have time for each other.
Yeah,
so
and I hear that
rip that off the bottom of the list.
the time. I hear it so much. Like I'm in community with a lot of different women in a lot of different stages of life, and I remember how hard it was when the kids were little to carve out that special, consistent time with I remember that it was challenging, but I also remember that I craved it. So talking to, you know, young moms or whatever, and they're just like, no, I don't remember the last time we were on a date, or no, we don't have time for that, or no, I don't want to. And now the thing is like, people refuse to do babysitters. Like, we only do babysitters if it's family. And I'm like, I don't know that kind of life. Like, we never lived close to family, right? So
we didn't either.
Right. You just met, hopefully, a good babysitter and whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I got to give a shout out to my favorite babysitter from San Diego, Marilyn, who I just saw on call on Saturday. She's an amazing person. She was there for me when I did need a babysitter. She was my go-to, and my kids loved her. She's now a mom with 3 little ones of her own.
Oh, wow.
And she has, you know, she and her husband have careers and a busy life. They have family around them. She called me because she is starting a nonprofit.
Oh, wow.
That helps provide mental health for moms during the perinatal period. Because
that's amazing.
There's a huge need for it. Not everybody has insurance access to that.
Sure.
So she put together this marvelous plan. She's already got she's got a bunch of people. It asked me to be on the board with a bunch of other people who can bring some expertise, and we had a huge conference call. So she's got this ball rolling. It's amazing. But she was my babysitter who our life was just blessed by.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, a couple of Navy moms who also our lives were blessed by. You know, you can't do it alone. So I guess that's another good thing for a marriage too, is you cannot just be in isolation, just you and your spouse.
No. And I mean, even as much as of an introvert you may be, you cannot do life in isolation. Community is central. It's central for thriving. It's central. You know, and we have been a part of a church our whole marriage. We've been a part of community groups our whole marriage. And thinking about everything that we have been through in how long we've been together, 25 years, 26 years we've been together. I can't imagine doing those things without help, without community, without other wives or other, you know, couples to get. I don't know how people do it. I don't know how you do it.
No, I don't either. When people would say, how do you do it? Me being a Navy mom, my husband gone, little kids, it was other people. You have to, I had to make those friends quickly. Yeah. But they are lifelong now. Yeah. They became family.
So I think we talked about this. My sister, it's kind of same scenario with her husband. He was in the Air Force for about 25 years. So she said the same thing. She was like, one of the things I loved about the military, it was instant community the moment you moved to a different place. Yeah. Because you needed it, because it was essential, right? Yeah. So the first time they moved to a new place that wasn't, I think it was like their first move after military. she was like, this is so weird. I have to work really hard at
Yeah.
finding friends. Like, it's not.
Right.
It
When
did-
you're among other military families, they know. They're like, oh, come to Easter at my house.
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Right.
I'm going to, you know, oh, I'll take, I remember 2 Navy wives moved away. One of my kids had a birthday that came and went. And I was like, I have no pictures because they were my picture takers. They took all my family photos, you know, at all my birthday parties. Yeah. So you gotta make friends. And that's been a struggle here. My husband had, you know, fast friends. Every time he'd go to a new squadron, there'd be a wardroom of pilots
Of
just
course.
like him. And they'd make instant friends. And now he's an airline pilot and you fly with different people every day.
Sure.
And so I have made some good friends here. And I feel like they've kind of become his friends. He doesn't really have a outlet to make his own friends around here.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The husbands become friends because the wives are friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. So what do you think there's some ways to prioritize your marriage? Like functional, practical ways, do you think? What are some things?
I mean, for us, date night on the sofa is a big thing. We watch shows that we like and have in common. And we definitely plan some date nights. We like to go out to eat. From early on when we had no money, we spent way too much money on going out to eat. We like get that credit card bill and be like, who do we think we are?
We rolled quarters for gas money, but we always went out.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't, you know, we have family, we host family things together. We enjoy each other's family. Actually, his parents and my parents went on a Viking cruise together last year to celebrate their 50th anniversaries.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we enjoy each other's families. I don't know, you gotta forgive a lot of unimportant stuff, get over it, move on, let it go. We definitely have learned to do some of that.
Sure.
And you got to stay close and intimate too.
Yeah.
That's a big
and
ebbs and wanes through your, you know, when you have babies all over you.
It's so different.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I feel like women, people don't talk about is the importance of intimacy in a marriage. I don't know if it's people are just uncomfortable or whatever. And, but it's critical. Like and talking to new moms, talking to new wives, they just don't want to hear it. Like at least in my estimation, they don't have the awareness of how critical it is, how critical it is to their husbands. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it probably needs to be a part of a conversation more. At least like premarital counseling or whatever. Like we didn't talk about that at all.
You know, it's can be awkward for me to talk about, and I'm a marriage and family therapist.
Yeah.
But it's hard to talk about your own, you know, your own experiences. But so one framework that sometimes makes it easy for people to talk about it. Most people have heard of the 5 love languages, right?
Yeah.
And I very quickly saw, okay, acts of service is totally my love language.
Too.
And, you know, you can make me feel very loved by washing my dishes. Oh my God, you will be elevated to sainthood, you know, in my esteem if you clean my kitchen. Holy smokes. And I could very easily identify my husband's big on physical touch, you know, and quality time, I think is for both of us as well. And then, you know, I thought of it as I should fill his love tank. That's the terms of, you know, the love languages. And it took a while of growing older to realize it also fills my love tank.
100%.
You know, people know working out is critical to your not just physical health, but your mental health. Some people do yoga. You know, people are into different somatic therapies.
Yeah, that's new.
Talking about your 5 senses and paying attention to, you know, aromatherapy or massage therapy. You know, all these things improve your mental health. So why wouldn't it occur to me that physical touch is critical in my marriage as well? Not just for him, but for me. So if I'm angry at him about something, and, you know, we've never been big on the silent treatment. I don't really believe that's a good thing to do. It seems like extremely dangerous.
I think so too.
To go down that road.
Yeah.
So why would physical touch not be the same? It took me a little bit to learn that the feelings that I'm holding on to of resentment over whatever,
Sure.
talking about it helps that. But not only talking about it helps that. Touching helps that too.
The eye contact with the touching, I think it makes a huge difference too.
In the same way that you hug your kid after, you know, some meltdown has happened and you've had to enforce a boundary or whatever, you know, discipline is going on, and you have a repair, you know, therapy, we talk about rupture and repair. That's the cycle of every relationship, rupture and repair. That goes for marriage too. Like, we would hug our children. You know, if our kids had a hard day, you know, you rock your 2-year-old to sleep. I don't know. People have opinions on sleep training. I was a rocker. I'll rock that baby to sleep, you know, 4 times a night.
I feel like
when
do whatever
grumpy.
Works for your family.
I'm a baby rocker. I am. And I even took a few pictures from that perspective, because I was like, as my youngest was getting big, I was like, one of these nights is going to be the last night that I ever rock a baby to sleep. But that came so naturally to me as a mom that my kids need physical touch with me. That is soothing to them. It helps them sleep. It helps them move on. It helps them let go of whatever grumpy mood they're in. Why did I not think that I need that from my husband as well?
It's for the connection, like that reforming of the connection.
100%. It took me a while to hear him when he is trying to say that, and for me to understand it the way I needed to. Me too. To have that light bulb moment. Yeah.
And for me, it was a light bulb moment. Like, literally, I remember the conversation. It was a light bulb moment of like, oh, I totally get it now. I don't know why it was such a hard concept for me to take in, but it was. But once it did, I was like, oh, it makes total sense now. 100%. Yeah, Austin and I always talk about, like, there's 3 things in a marriage that I think make a good, healthy marriage. And one of them is, and this is through our, through painful spiraling of not doing those things, right? Like open, honest, vulnerable communication, friendship, enjoying each other, doing things together. He's the first person I want to share something with, right? He just is. He has been for a long time. And so it's that friendship and intimacy. Like I said, intimacy, however that plays out, but it's just critical for both. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It keeps you young
too.
It keeps you young. There's that too. But yeah, there are some things that you don't have to say, or, you know, there's going to be perpetual problems in every relationship. Yes. That's a Gottman, you know, if anybody's into John Gottman, they talk about solvable problems and perpetual problems. There's going to be perpetual problems. And so the repair for that is, you know, just sometimes reaching out and hugging someone, holding hands, returning to each other despite the fact that you haven't solved this thing that you are maybe always going to disagree on. You can't die on that hill. You still have to connect. And sometimes physical touch is easier, that you're not going to talk your way through every problem. Sometimes you got to hug your way through. Yeah. If that's a pretty cheesy soundbite.
That's gonna be a real.
Talk your way through every problem.
You gotta hug your way through. I like that. No, like, so, and you know, and it's interesting how you said rupture and repair. Yeah. So, from like a Christian perspective, it would be like in conflict, you have a conflict, and then you seek forgiveness and then reconciliation. So it would be kind of this, like a similar how it plays out. Like,
you got to love each other more than you care about that problem.
Yes. You have to love that person more than you care about being right or justified or whatever it is. Yeah. I think that's hard. I mean, I only live in America, but I think maybe that's hard for Americans because we're so individualistic. And I think we care so much about our rights or whatever. I don't know. I feel like the thought of putting the needs of your spouse before your own consistently, it's not intuitive, I don't think, for most people. I think it's something that has to be learned or taught or modeled.
Yeah. And like you said, you can get in a spiral. You can get in a rut of not prioritizing that, of blaming. You can talk yourself through they're the problem and you just want to give up on them because they're the problem. And that's almost never the case, you know, with very few exceptions. You can negotiate. You can even set boundaries. You can be like, well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to go do this. And then that way I don't have to resent you for this. It's my responsibility to figure out how I'm going to solve that problem. Yeah, it's not always the other person bending to how you want stuff, or you know, sometimes nobody bends and you just go do something separate. That's okay too. We had, you know, a ton of separation in our marriage.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like the silver lining to that may have been when we are together, we prioritize being together. Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Sure.
Like the spark is always there for us.
That's awesome.
So
that's exciting.
So often we didn't have time to be angry at each other and turn a cold shoulder to each other because he's leaving in 2 days.
Yeah.
And we've always left on a good note, with a smile and a kiss and a hug and this could be the last time I see you walk out the door.
Yeah, that's a whole nother level. And
I transfer that to my kids now too. You know, when my kids leave, I'm never gonna, you know, have angry words for them before they leave for something. I always want to say, I love you, have a good day, be safe. You know, it's a routine.
Yeah, I said that so my son and I, if someone is going to have a disagreement, it's typically going to be my son and I, although it's much, much better now, but growing up anyway. But, you know, I would never let him leave the house, or I would try so hard to never let him leave the house on like a bad note or whatever.
Yeah.
But I remember when he was older, I was like, listen, you never know what the day has in store. So we will not leave without like hugging, without I love you, like no matter what. And at first he was like, Mom, that's so morbid. I'm like, but it's true. You don't know how the day is going to play out. So I do not want this to be, if this is, God forbid, the last time I see you, like, or whatever. Yeah, I've always felt that way too. Yeah. So, so you do work with moms. So you see like different ways how midlife can be challenging or exciting too. So what do you think are some healthy habits for women in midlife?
Keep some friendships. I mean, at least even just one. You know, something that you know, I have a book club. I have like a standing happy hour with some friends.
That's fun.
I can't get everything from my husband. That's too much to ask for one person to be your everything. It's
unfair.
Yeah. My friends, and this tends to be true for a lot of women, my friends give me a lot of validation, even when it might be completely undeserved. You know, where they're like, you know, they'll completely exonerate me and like, but you know, I can't believe they said that to you.
How dare he?
Yeah. Or, you know, that manager was completely, you know, I like validation. So friends can give that to you often when your husband can't. Yeah, you need some outlets. Moms, I've talked to a lot of older moms who struggle with boundaries with their adult kids.
Oh, that's good.
Sometimes setting their own boundaries, you know, what do I give them input on? What do I not give them input on? Because that can cause some friction between a mom and adult kids. Dads too, moms or dads and their adult kids.
Sure.
Sometimes you have to keep your, you know, opinions to yourself.
Yeah.
That can be a hard, you know, thing to judge. And then sometimes the reverse. Moms who struggle with their adult kids sending boundaries with them that they feel as rejection.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, kids who are like, you know, we're not coming home for Christmas. We're going to go do Christmas at, you know, my other spouse's house, or, you know, we're going to come for Easter, but we're going to leave by 4, whereas, you know, they might be used to it being like an all evening.
Sure.
Just, you know, those are just 2 examples, but there's lots of possible things. Who's going to be in the hospital room when your daughter gives birth? You know, there's a lot of times that adult kids have to set boundaries with their parents. That can be hard too.
Yeah.
It's feelings, you know, sometimes you got to figure out how to be okay with new boundaries in your relationship.
Yeah.
And boundaries are a buzzword. If you're on Instagram at all, like mental health therapist, boundaries is a word everybody talks about.
Sure.
Boundaries are often misunderstood, though. Boundaries are not to keep people at arm's length, to build walls between you. Boundaries are to set a structure so that you can stay in relationship.
Oh, that's good.
This is what I need to stay close to you. This is what I need to keep celebrating every Christmas with you. It just has to be within this framework, and then we can all be healthy and not have any resentments. That's and good. Not have to cut people off completely.
Yeah.
About, people on the internet also talk about like toxic people. People are not toxic. Behaviors are toxic. Boundaries are things that you can control about yourself, about what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, so that you don't grow resentful of someone else, so that you don't overstep and reignite like this constant fight that you keep having. Boundaries should help you stay close to people.
That's such a good distinction. Like, I feel that's super helpful, because you're right. You can't go on a social media site without seeing someone talk about boundaries or toxic behavior, whatever. Yeah, it's really good.
A boundary is not something you force on people either. When people always then say, well, what do you do if they don't respect your boundary? Well, boundaries are not something other people control. They're something you control. So you say, I can go to that family reunion, but I'm getting my own hotel room. That's an example of a boundary that you need to eliminate a lot of unnecessary stress, that you can still go and be with people.
Yeah. This is resonating quite a bit.
That's maybe a grand scale boundary, not staying with people in their home. A small, tiny, everyday example I give about, so I don't do my husband's laundry.
Okay.
I probably did more of it when we were younger. Now he's so used to flying and packing himself and everything. He's just in charge of his own laundry. But there was a time when I was doing it the whole time I've known him, he peels his socks off, and they're
inside out.
They're boot socks. So like long wool, thick socks he wears with his flight boots. He peels them out inside out, and usually leaves them on the floor. I've gotten over that battle, whatever. Now he's better putting it but when it comes through the laundry, I would have to, every sock, I'd have to stretch my whole hand down the sock and pull it out, and nails would catch, or it irritates me. I would get all resentful about these. I ask him, and he doesn't care that I'm the one doing it, and I take my sock. Why can't he just do it the way I do it? And then one day, I'm talking years into this, every time I have to put my hand down his sock, resentment grows. Probably we were married 15 years one day, and I'm getting his laundry out of the way. So I'm doing this, and I'm like, why don't if I'm the one turning it inside out, not him, why not just change that around and not turn it inside out? I never have to, I can do his socks. It's not washing the socks that bothers me.
It's
So I just took 2 black socks and inside out and matched them, fold and put them in. And I was like, I thought of myself as a smart person, but how did it take 15 years for me to figure that out? And I overheard him once talking to somebody about, I don't know what, but he mentioned something about his socks. And I heard him say something like, she's doing this passive aggressive thing with and later that I was like, no, it's not. I keep doing what you want to do with your socks. I'll never bother you about your socks again. It's over. I solved the sock problem by setting a boundary. I am not going to turn your socks right side out. You never asked me to do that. I put that on myself. So that's my boundary that I don't even think about his socks, ever since then.
That's funny. But yeah, I mean, it can be as simple as that, or as complicated as family reunions or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Or topics you want to talk about.
Sure.
If I'm not going to talk about this, if you insist on talking about it, I'm going to have to hang up and say bye. You don't have to get angry at them for bringing it up. You're not in control of them but you are in control of if you're going to stay in that conversation.
Yeah.
You're not cutting off a relationship, but you can cut off a conversation.
Yeah. That's really good. That's something that I've had to learn through the years. of just, there's just certain things that we just can't talk about, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And we're still family, and we still love each other, and we still see each other, and there's just certain things we just can't talk about, and that's fine. And it's even better because then we can just enjoy each other as a person rather than like, you know.
Right.
Yeah. But that's something that I've had to learn the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very rare in life where things all or nothing.
Sure. Definitely. Especially with people.
Yeah.
Like, for sure. For sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. You're so great.
Well, thank you for having me. I could talk to you forever.
I feel like we could probably talk forever, and I like that. But yes, thank you so much for coming on. Kristi Vega, she's a marriage and family therapist in Nocatee. You should check her out.
Yeah, and keep watching Second Act Mamas because women in their second act, there's a lot to learn from them.
I think so too. Yeah. I think so too. Yeah, we have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.